allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up, we'll do the warrants. Brian has a general fund warrants this week.
All right, general fund warrant here dated January 3rd, 2025. Total on this one here is $92,776.75. Of that total, two large portions of it. First one is for AmCare. It's a check be just over 29,000. And then various checks throughout this period totaling a little over 33,000, all going to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So with that said, I would make a motion that we pass the general fund warrant, the amount of $92,776.75.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Jack has the miscellaneous warrants. I believe there's 4 of them. Let's,
One of them's really big.
yeah, let's just split them out.
Okay. First one, industrial park warrant. In the amount of $385. Next one is the Stonehouse warrant. In the amount of $713.55. It looks like it's just maintenance stuff, webs, sticks and stuff like that. This one is the stormwater utility warrant in the amount of $93,934.70. And a lot of that is for the Tanglewood project. Actually, no, most of it is that, with the exception of $501.53 for something else. That's the international set.
It's the legal.
Oh.
It's a page on.
Okay. This is a federal ARPA fund warrant. Now of $508,000, $745.76. And looks like we got some equipment. And what else here? Most equipment's in engineering. So I make a motion, we approve all these warrants as presented.
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Jeff has the 2 payroll warrants.
Actually, there's 3 payroll
Three.
warrants this time around, and I will go through them and then offer them up as one unit. So we have the first payroll warrant is for December, dated December 20th, 2024, and that's in the amount of $25,982.36. The second payroll warrant is dated December 26th, 2024. And that warrant is in the amount of $49,921.98. And this warrant includes contributions to the retirement plans for the town employees. And the third warrant dated January 3rd is in the amount of $30,648.93. And I would make a motion that we approve these warrants as presented.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that takes care of the warrants. Public comment? There's no public. Okay.
Minutes,
So in your packet, you have the minutes from Monday, December 16th. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So move.
Second. Perfect, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, town managers report. Go ahead, Sean.
Yes, first, AmCare is here to Present us with gifts, yeah.
If I have is, we met all together, and two questions about. Dispatch, we weren't where you were paying anymore, I don't know, the city kept doing it, we got another need, so I got a nice happy. Oh my life, the only question in the wrong.
Please speak into the microphone.
Sorry. I can move.
So I got a nice check for you guys for $26,724. That is reimbursement for all the dispatch fees you paid from July 1st until December 31st.
You guys want to keep that, Glenn? We'll just cancel our warrant that we had before here. 29.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Fair enough.
Then,
Well, we were kind of hoping to find out, see if you guys had made up your minds as to how you wanted to proceed going forward.
There was a 10-year one, right? that we talked
That's
about
what you
last-
guys have, I mean, we presented you with a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, a 1-year, and we gave you a choice, basically the best deal obviously was the 10+1 year. Basically, over 10+1, you exercise your right to renew at 3% this year. And then going forward, I think it's increments of. It's kind of a mixed bag. If I remember right. Overall, you save like $92,000 over a period of 10 years.
Mhm.
Pretty much.
I'll be honest with you, it wasn't on the agenda, so I didn't refresh my memory on.
And I wasn't
on
here.
it. So,
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah, we have till March to decide that, right?
You do, yeah, I mean.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to not make a decision tonight.
Yeah,
It's,
Since I was
but
there.
I will note that with our past discussions, it appears that we will be going with a 10+1.
Yeah.
I had that feeling, so it came with the
Right.
10+1 contract, just in case you wanted to have it and in case you wanted to sign it. I had it ready. We can come back. It's up to you guys.
okay.
I understand if you weren't here, you're not aware that.
I mean, we can still talk about it another time, but
We have a copy of that.
Yeah, I can actually give you the whole copy and when you, your whole copy, when you're ready,
Perfect.
you sign it.
I know how to get a hold of
You
you.
don't have to come. Guys decide on
Sure,
a meeting,
yep.
you wanna sign it?
Check.
I just come down, I'll sign my copy, you sign your copy.
Do you have the old presentation that you
I
presented?
don't
Is
have
that
it
not here,
on
but
me.
could?
Oh, yeah, I
can we
do.
get- Can we get that to Amanda so she
Yeah.
can see all the
Yeah.
different options? that you have?
What is your email?
Amanda@stalbanstown.com
I can
or
email
A
you.
Headley.
I can email you her
You
stuff.
gonna email me?
Yeah, just so that she can see what we saw.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'll be glad to. I thought I had it. I looked through all this. I got a lot of crap in here, but I don't have that. Because if I did, well, if I did, it's probably full of my hand scratchings anyway. You wouldn't understand. You wouldn't want that one. But yeah. no. We're not in a big game. We just kind of like, you know, where we're moving.
Mhm.
Yeah. That
Perfect.
was more important for me to bring you $26,000 say, yes,
Take it.
there was a mistake, yes. I mean,
You can bring one of those every time.
well, make a mistake and pay me too much and I will. But yeah, I mean, that was, we were never made aware by anybody. And the city kept billing. So when I called the city, I said, what are you billing me for? Damn, you don't pay taxes. in.
Yeah.
Or dispatch fees. Well, we're paying, then you're paying for the city. We don't pay dispatch fees. You
Yeah.
pay dispatch fees.
And it still,
Back and
still
forth, back and
lists
forth. Yes, it
the
does.
dispatch fees, so if you see it, it still says it, but we did the math out.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
correct amount now, it's just,
Yeah.
still says this.
They haven't changed the wording on the invoice. They're
Yeah.
going to be for the next invoice you get, it'll be clarified. There will be no dispatch. mentioned whatsoever.
The amount's the big part for.
Yes, the amount is always what's more important than anything that's written in there, but yeah.
Perfect.
We just wanted to make it nice and clean.
You got it.
So yeah, if you at a subsequent meeting decide after you read it, you guys want to sign the contract, I can just drive down and sign it. There's no
Sure.
need to, make a special slot for Glenn to come in, yeah.
We like it, service.
You what?
We like
Okay.
people to come to our meeting.
Look at how packed it is.
It's because there's not a quarry. on the- on the
That's not
agenda.
what?
There's not a quarry on the agenda.
Not worry or something else.
If you offer beer, people will come now.
Yeah.
But when they say build it, they will come.
You threatened to build that thing in the prison.
That's the biggest meeting since I've been here, yeah.
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 Well, that's all right. I don't mind coming. I don't live far.
An expensive trip.
Let's be out of the home.
Careful, step
All
away
right,
from
you're
the
far
mic.
enough away from the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Clem.
Thanks for coming down. Good deal. And next up. Yeah. okay. Catherine Dimitrick to MNRPC to discuss Act 181.
Hello,
Hi.
thanks for having me here tonight. As a quick review, Catherine Dimitrick, Northwest Regional Planning Commission. We are your regional planning commission serving as the intermediary between state and local governments and doing all sorts of projects and programs on behalf of our communities and the region. And we did give the town a town report that I think Sean and the town clerk both have that summarizes the work that we did for the town in the past year. And that includes collaborating with you on the transit oriented development project and the bylaw modernization project, which were two. One finished really fun project, another one ongoing, and we're looking forward to that. And I did want to thank you for your annual contribution that you make to support regional planning. All of the towns in the region contribute, and it's a small percentage of our budget, but it's the most flexible funding that we have. So that enables us to leverage additional state and federal dollars for the region, which has been really great. And I also want to thank you for your two commissioners, Megan and Marietta. They're great participants on our board and we really appreciate having them. And we don't count Sarah as a St. Albans town rep because she represents Fairfax, but we appreciate her participation as well, or we did. Now she can't be on the board anymore. So what I really wanted to talk to you about is Act 181. And I don't know if that name rings a bell to you at all, but it was passed last year through legislative override of a gubernatorial veto. And it includes major changes to three things in the state of Vermont related to planning, growth, and development. One is Act 250. The second is the state designation and incentive program. And the third is regional planning. So first for Act 250, the bill does a few things. It has some interim exemptions for housing that went into place right away. And those include such things as adding an accessory dwelling unit. You no longer have to go through Act 250, even if you have an underlying Act 250 permit. It includes the construction of 50 units or less of housing on 10 acres or less within the designated village centers, downtowns, growth centers, and a 1/4 mile buffer around those. So the St. Albans Bay area here that has a village center designation, you could build up to 50 units of housing within or a 1/4 mile around that without needing to get an Act 250 permit. Those incentives were put in place right away to try to spur housing development because, as you know, and we all know, we're in the midst of a housing crisis. So those were immediate changes that happened to Act 250.
Just quick, and I
Yeah.
know we actually learned about this a little bit as it was about to be passed, but does that, whatever it was, 1/4 mile, 1/2 mile, does that also surround the city within the town,
Yes.
or is that?
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
border is
so-
not a border, so to speak.
Right, so there is the other areas in the town that qualify for the exemption are around the city's growth center, which does in some part capture parts of the town.
Yeah, there are a few projects right now actually that
Yep.
fall within that, which helps.
Which is exactly what
Yeah,
was hoped to happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the areas that don't fall within that, right? So in the here and then out, there's no Act 250 needed. For the other areas that are a little bit beyond that, the rules with Act 250 stayed the same.
They
They're
stayed
not
the
more
same.
stringent.
They're
right?
not more stringent. The rules right now is if you build more than 10 units anywhere else, you are required to go through Act 250. Or if you have a commercial project on more than 10 acres. And so that is status quo. That hasn't changed. Long-term, there are potential changes. So long-term for Act 250, there's going to be 3 different tiers of jurisdiction with the idea to really move to more place-based jurisdiction. So not just you build 11 units, you need Act 250, but where are you building those units? And so long-term in tier 1, there will be a relaxation of Act 250 jurisdiction. So within the village centers, the village areas, there will be, if municipalities choose to opt in, a 50 unit or less exemption. So it would be basically a continuation of the interim exemptions. So that'll be long-term. for
Can we
tier
opt in
one.
right now?
What was that?
Can we opt in?
Well, you are opted in right
Okay.
now because the interim exemptions are in
Okay.
place.
it
So
already
it's
counts.
essentially
Okay.
in discussions, it's called opting in, but really what it is deciding to let it continue
Okay.
long-term.
Gotcha.
And then, so within tier one, there's two tiers, that's the 50 units. And then there's this other level called tier 1A, which is complete and total Act 250, no jurisdiction for commercial or residential projects of any size. That requires a whole host of things on the municipal level, including some really detailed requirements for your zoning regulations, water and sewer infrastructure, commitment to take on and enforce all of the existing Act 250 permits within that area, and a whole host of other things. That'll be done by municipal application. So a municipality would need to decide to apply to do that. Like has been the town's challenge in the past, the legislation does speak to those areas being around traditional downtowns. But unlike previous instances, it doesn't say that that has to be within your municipality. So the bill is kind of silent on this, but my hope is that there be an opportunity, for example, for the city and town to work together to make an application for that higher threshold, to have no Act 250 jurisdiction, and do an application together that encompasses some of these areas. I'm hoping that that's going to be allowable, but the bill is kind of silent on that issue.
Are they gonna allow us to designate the growth center?
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
So right now in our region, well, let me just back up a little bit. So the tier one eligible areas, these areas that are eligible for decrease Act 250 or loosening of Act 250 jurisdiction, the way those boundaries are going to be set are going to be in the regional plans. So right now, it was just the designated areas plus a 1/4 mile boundary, but we are going to be doing an update to our regional plan over the next year to make these new boundaries. And there's going to be consistent land use areas for all the regional plans across the state. And 3 of those, the downtown and village centers, village areas, and planned growth areas, are going to be eligible for this tier 1 designation upon approval of our regional plan. So before, our board would approve the regional plan and then we're done. Now our board will approve the regional plan and we'll go to this new land use review board, which we have Sarah had appointed to, will be a member. And that board will then approve our regional plans. Once those are approved, these mapped tier 1 areas are eligible. When it comes to St. Albans Town, right now we have a growth center in our regional plan. In looking, we took some time to look at how that boundary is drawn compared to what the statute says for growth centers. So I think based on, we're gonna have to follow the statutory language for growth areas, which is a little different than what we had done in the past. And I think everything or almost everything that's in the growth center in the regional plan now, and which follows the town's growth center boundaries in your plan and bylaws, will be able to be included, except I know we cannot include the area at exit 20 across the interstate. So if that heads towards Swanton up to 07, that area, there's an area that's included in the growth center now, we will not be able to include that. And the reason is that the statutory language speaks to pedestrian connections, and there's no pedestrian connection there. So that's one huge hurdle. The other hurdle is that it has to have water and sewer infrastructure. And I know the water line will be extended there, but I'm not. So we can't, I don't think we're going to be able to include those areas.
I just interrupt.
Yeah.
So the rail trail goes underneath there.
The rail trail goes underneath there, but it doesn't connect to the land that's off the
Could
207. I think there's potential to make pedestrian connections. I don't think the way things exist now will be able to include those lands. But let me just say that all that means is that area there is status quo. It doesn't mean that you can't develop there. That doesn't mean that the regional plan will say that's not an area for development. We'll probably call it transitional or something like that. It just means that that area won't be eligible for the Act 250 reduced jurisdiction for housing. That's all that that's going to mean.
When would it have to be pedestrian friendly by?
If it was made pedestrian friendly by, say, September, which is our timing for updating the regional plan, but we can do amendments. So if something were to change in the future and that area is eligible, we can amend the regional plan and include it in.
And are you addressing the planning commission as well?
Yeah, so what we're gonna do moving forward is we're gonna meet with your town staff and your planning commission and just kind of go over it in more detail than you're gonna want to hear about for all the statutory language and what that means for where we can draw the growth boundaries in St. Albans Town. And then work with them, and hopefully it should be pretty straightforward, because I think it is, except for that one area, mostly following the current growth center boundaries. So we'll work with the planning commission and your staff. And then we'll be going through the regional plan adoption process in the late fall, early winter. So we should be done a year from now. As part of the adoption process, we'll be back to you, or Sean will be back to you with the request of whether you want to opt into that long-term Act 250 jurisdiction change of 50 units or less.
So doesn't Swan use it? Extended boundary?
Yeah, I gave the same message to Swanton a few weeks ago that we wouldn't be able to include that in our growth center at this moment. But we know exactly what would need to happen to be able to, in the future, include it. So it'd be a great conversation with the planning commission and staff and select board.
Just so I'm clear, so the area down here in the village, areas surrounding parts of the city.
Yeah,
Are we talking about exit 19 as well?
Exit 19,
And then,
yep.
Hannaford area.
yep.
So the Hannaford area wouldn't extend to the exit 20? Isn't that within quarter mile or so? Or am I missing something?
So when we do the long-term planning for this jurisdictional change and draw the growth area boundaries, we have to follow the statutory language. So it's not this quarter mile, just a set quarter mile buffer. We have to follow statutory language, which has a whole bunch of requirements, one of them being water and sewer infrastructure and the other being pedestrian complete streets infrastructure. And so because of that, we'll be able to include a lot of the exit 20 area. We just won't be able to include that portion that is on the east side of I-89 up to 07, northeast side.
With the, I mean, there's no pedestrian infrastructure. Would that preclude exit 19 as well?
Well, because there are plans, so it has to either be existing or pretty planned.
Health path, you're saying?
Yeah, you've got the health path, you've got, there are sidewalks within a reasonable distance. There's some permit conditions for some developments to build permits, to build sidewalks. And there's bus service. There's a bunch of things.
Great foresight we had.
Yes.
The new act 181 would be coming.
You did, you must have. Yeah. And so we're really actually, I think it's a great opportunity for communities to take advantage of these Act 250 changes. And so I think St. Albans Town is in a good opportunity to take advantage of these. The other change that was made was to the state designation program. So you do have this designated village here, which makes the town eligible for some incentives. It's a really small geographic area. It's not drawn very large. This new statutory language for the state designations, instead of each municipality applying individually to the state, the regional plan will set the boundaries. And when the regional plan is approved, you're done. You don't have to do anything else. And so you won't have to do any renewal applications. You won't have to do any future applications. And the statutory language was changed so that we can be a little more flexible in the boundaries. So we may be able to expand it a little bit to make a larger area eligible for incentives. And we'll take a look at that with your staff and with the planning commission to see if that makes sense. So for a town like St. Albans with capacity to make those applications and do that work, it's not as big of a benefit as some of our smaller towns who usually have to rely on volunteers to do those applications, but it's still a nice change, especially with the flexibility of potentially making it a little larger.
Is there like a percentage of the land area? Like what's the limitation? It's kind of getting in the weeds, but,
There's no limitation on the percentage. It's all
Okay.
based on the land use itself.
okay.
Yeah, so we look at some of our towns, it's basically a point on the map that might qualify, and
Yeah.
some towns it's a much larger geography.
So question, I mean, I can't think of any, but is there any reason why you would want some areas to qualify for tier 1A?
I think there's two reasons why towns wouldn't want to be tier 1B, which is the 50 units. And that's really if you don't want to encourage housing, or you're concerned that your municipality doesn't have the capacity to review bigger projects. For the tier 1A, where everything is exempt, I think the biggest hurdle is the requirement that you take on the enforcement of the existing Act 250 permits within that area. That's probably the biggest hurdle, is committing to do that and demonstrating that you have the staff to do that.
You mean, we take on the enforcement? I thought there was no Act 2 area.
Well,
So. but-
There'd be no Act 250 for new projects, but the existing projects that have Act 250 permits, those will remain in place. And so the town, the municipality would have to take on the enforcement of those conditions.
Who enforces them now?
The district, the district coordinators,
No one.
yeah.
Is that a huge burden would that be a huge burden for St. Albans Town, John?
Not in my opinion. No.
I don't think it would be either,
Yeah.
but some municipalities may.
Legal gets involved. Sure.
Oh, yeah.
So that's it in a nutshell. Timing wise, we are starting, Greta or Emily from our staff will be in touch with your staff soon and the planning commission to set up a meeting to start going over the mapping for St. Albans Town. And then we'll be doing a series of a lot of public outreach in the late winter, early spring into the summer, when we'll then start the adoption process. And so we're pretty excited. We just want to get moving and get it done.
Sorry.
Yeah, keep ask all the questions. As long as you have time, I have time.
So in terms of like the tier numbers, so I'm assuming those areas in our town that don't get 1A or 1B would be in a quote unquote tier 2.
Yeah, so
Would
tier,
would we have any, if you could tell me what that is, and then would we have any areas that would they go to this tier 3 where it's
Right.
more restricted?
so most of the town would be tier 2, which would be a status quo, no change. There is a whole separate process to determine what is these tier 3 areas, which are areas that are going to have some level of increased Act 250 jurisdiction. And what that is undefined. It's not clear if that means you turn a shovel and you have to get Act 250, or it could be a different threshold for needing Act 250. Those areas are going to be determined through a rulemaking process that's led by the Agency of Natural Resources and the Land Use Review Board. That there aren't a lot of areas in the town that I think would be caught up in something like that. Areas, if they end up including like the class 1 wetlands, there's some wetlands. There's potentially, if they do steep slopes, some steep slope areas of the town. But you don't have a lot of super high elevation. You have so much of your land is already conserved through land trust. So I can't predict what they'll do, but if some parts of the town end up in tier 3, I don't think it will be a huge percentage or a lot of acreage.
Thank you.
So what's really the benefit of the different tiers? Like, is it just cost to the developer?
Cost and certainty, and certainty is cost.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's the cost the developer for going through the process and the uncertainty that adds to timing. And that, from everything I've heard from the developers talking about it, that not only adds cost in terms of just the carrying capacity of the development and the sunk costs, but also it can impact the cost of your financing. If you have to go through Act 250 versus not Act 250, it can impact the cost of your financing because of the certainty and uncertainty that those two situations create.
Yeah, because it's like if they bought land and then they had to sit on it while it's going through all this
Yeah.
process, they have all these carrying costs.
And you might skip a construction season and then.
So in whose right mind do you think that like, this is gonna help? Like,
It already has.
I just don't, to me, it seems like more restriction in certain areas, but in some areas you have less.
Well, most areas
Where
are
there's
going to, are
capacity.
status quo.
Yeah,
Most areas won't change. It's the areas that are planned for growth that's
Yeah.
gonna have less Act 250
So-
jurisdiction.
So how does that solve? I believe the governor said 36,000 housing.
It
like-
solves it I mean, trying,
it's a big step.
It's a big
It's
step.
yeah. When I found out it was happening after I had first learned about Act 250, I was like, okay, this is.
But,
this is a-
but
this
does
is
it
a good
really
step.
affect St. Albans that much compared to other areas? Like, seems like
It could.
it
Yeah.
could,
could.
yeah.
I mean, places like Burlington, they don't have Act 250 at all, right? I mean, the whole place might be tier 1, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
essentially, right? I mean, my understanding of the law, right, is to just encourage growth where there already is a lot of growth.
Or where there's
Everyone
infrastructure to support it.
Where out stays the
Yeah.
same, and probably to the detriment of some small towns that want to grow. They get shackled with some more, right? Some extra restrictions.
There might, but
St.
there,
Albans shouldn't be affected by that.
no, and even for some of the smaller towns, there's language added to the legislation to make sure that no one municipality has an undue burden, like for these tier 3 areas, because otherwise you look at some of our more rural towns and you could imagine like, the whole town could be, but that there was some good language added toward the end to prevent that. And I would say, and I'll make sure, I'm sure VLCT will as well, but we'll make sure that the towns know about the tier 3 rulemaking process, because that will be important to pay attention to. So it is helping already. This is the first I've heard from Sean about some potential projects happening around because of that. There was a great article on BT Digger about highlighting, 10 or 12 projects across the state that are moving forward because of this law change, or they were only going to do 9 units and now they're doing 30. Because now if they can do more units and not go through Act 250. I don't think you can overstate the fear of having to go through Act 250 for a developer because of the additional appeal option is what it really comes down to. And it can be delay. There's several examples of projects that have just been delayed for years and years and years.
It's like the
And
pit,
that-
right?
Hmm.
The pit in Burlington.
The
It's like
pit
the
in
pit.
Burlington is
Yeah.
a big example of that.
Yeah, it's a great.
St. Albans.
There's an example of an affordable housing project in Brattleboro that was held up for over 5 years, and every step of the way they appealed, including Act 250, and then they appealed that to Supreme Court. So it,
Costco's.
yeah, but and when it comes,
Low.
And when-
Homesteads one day.
all it takes is one neighbor with enough
200.
time or deep enough pockets to really, yeah. And also,
Well, they could still do that anyway. Oh,
A lot of times it happens because they don't want that.
they can still do it locally, but now they can't do it locally and Act 250. So it does, I think it does help. It's not going to make lumber cheaper, and it's not going to make labor people to do the work all of a sudden show up on the doorsteps, but it does impact costs, it impacts time. And when you have a short construction season and you have the carrying costs, it does matter.
so at what point will we start taking over Act 250? Will we ever get into that tier? Where we'll take over the enforcement?
Because it's only if we get into the, when it's permanent, not in the interim period. Is that
Right.
I'd say
And so-
best case 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, the last time I talked to the enforcement officers, we had a bunch of enforcement this thick. She was all alone. I think. Everyone stayed her.
Mhm.
She wasn't gonna get to some of them for 3-4 years and so.
But that's across the whole district, not in one,
Well,
not in one part of
that's the
one
whole state.
municipality. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so you'd be talking about one part of St. Albans Town, not the whole town. So. Yeah, I'm hoping that it's an opportunity for the town. I think it'd be good. The other thing, speaking of housing, the other thing that we will have to do with our regional plan is we are going to need to include housing targets for each municipality in the region, getting to your question about the lack of housing. So the state is going to be releasing targets for housing development for 2030 and 2050. Those should be released by pretty soon in the next week or two. I don't have the exact date, but I'm guessing the next week or two. And I've seen the draft and they look pretty good. We're gonna have to take the estimates for the targets for the region and break it out by municipality. And when we were taking a look at the 2030 and the 2050 breakdown, and you look at the rate of housing growth, it would be looking for St. Albans Town for about a doubling of the rate of housing growth by 2030 and 2050 in order to meet this target. The target is not a requirement and there's no penalty for towns not meeting the target. What it is it's going to be a tool to help municipalities put other things in context. Like when you're trying to make a decision about infrastructure or trying to make a decision about capital budgeting, just knowing like how many houses would need to be built in your community to help normalize the housing market is just an important piece of information.
Could a developer use that to help they're in like an Act 250 review?
They might be able to
Yeah.
use it. Yeah, as a reason.
I don't understand how the state can set a target. I don't see how that connects back to the private citizens' desire to build houses in an environment that may not be favorable for building houses. So, and then, like, you can't mandate that.
No, you can't. And the town itself, as of right now, isn't building housing. So what it is it's, I think where I think it's going to be helpful is maybe not in towns like St. Albans, where I think you're well aware of the work that you do and how it impacts housing. I might think it might be more useful in some other communities. You know, some communities, you know, get a 4-unit subdivision and they're like, but understanding that in the context of really to do our part to normalize the housing market, we're going to need to build 30 new houses in the next 5 years. In that context, I think will be cool.
And then that with schools,
Mhm.
it's just overall.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, you know, the one thing keeps getting brought up is the school, but the school has been pretty flat, if not.
It's been in decline since
They
the
don't say
pandemic.
that.
Well, they say it's not really.
At least the incoming kids, the younger ones, it's
For
been
sure.
really low.
First grade, it's down.
Well, city school is, but like, I think the overall, the Maple Run district. I'm just talking.
I thought the.
Yeah, Bill Kimball said it's about flat the last 5 years.
So I thought first grade and kindergarten was down
It was down.
Say tech
for SATEC.
versus the city school.
Staff is going up.
I
Students.
think that's how.
Okay,
I don't think
well, whatever.
Well, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have very few schools in the region that have capacity concerns. That I don't think meeting the housing targets, even if they were met, would be detrimental to school capacity, especially when you look at the decrease in household size that's happening. I mean, people are just having fewer children. So,
Same dogs.
yeah, because they get dogs.
Jeez, me.
So I think that's a question we're going to need to answer as part of that, setting the housing targets, just because it's questions gonna come up.
So there's no, from the state's point of view, there's no numbers for St. Albans Town on how many
Not
houses
yet.
have to be built?
It will be.
There will be, I don't have them yet.
Okay. Do you think it'll be based on the populations across the state or percentage?
So, they are taking a statewide target and kind of dividing it up among all their 11 regional planning commission regions based on historic growth trends and where, there's capacity. So Chittenden County is going to have a higher percentage of that than other areas just because they traditionally have grown more. But our region is one of the higher growing ones in the state. So we'll get some of that as well. When we're looking at taking that regional target and breaking it out by municipality. We're gonna do a couple of things. For the 2030, since it's only 5 years from now, we're gonna divide that regional target up mostly based on the current growth rate in housing, because it's pretty unreasonable to think there'd be a major shift in the next, 3 to 4 years to meet that 2030 target. But long-term 2050 will consider a lot of other factors, including where there's infrastructure and where the growth areas are planned and other things.
Will the town be able to, so to speak, buy that capacity from another little town, doesn't want to grow?
No, because I don't think they need to, because it's a target. It's not it's a planning tool.
So what is interesting to me, as I sit here thinking, is that we also have this conservation effort that we're gonna conserve 50% of the land in the state by 2050.
That's where tier 3 comes in.
Yeah.
Like you have two very, and that's a law.
Mhm.
That's not a target.
That's
That's,
a law.
that's set in law.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to do some, there's two very competing interests at the same, we need houses and we need to get people off the land. We need
More houses and more land.
more houses and more land.
Simultaneous.
The land is a fixed asset in the state of Vermont, unless we fill in Lake Champlain.
Yes.
Let's do.
Gotta build up.
Well, one of them's a law, and one of them's a target, and the law is the law, and I have no idea how they're gonna be able to enforce that. And, or they're having a hard time defining what conservation is, but. It's just interesting that. One group of people, which is actually A&R is gonna be in charge of all of it eventually,
Mhm.
but. It's just, I find it interesting that you have two very. One is trying to address the human need for housing in the state of Vermont. And the other one's trying to address a UN mandate that we conserve land. No, it's all right out of the UN. I've studied this out. It's the UN is driving this. And so you have these two competing interests. It'll be interesting to see how that works out in the state of Vermont. So. Anyways, it's just interesting to me, so.
On agricultural lands, will solar power be allowed?
On what?
Would solar power fields be allowed on agricultural land?
I don't think anything in this bill would change that. So whatever
Can't
current,
breathe on it.
Pardon?
Can't even breathe on that.
whatever current process is, which seems to change by the month. This bill doesn't change that. I've taken a lot of your time, sorry.
I'm sorry.
You got all those people behind.
Yes, I'm sorry.
You didn't bring a check though.
No, I didn't bring it. I didn't know that I was.
It's very
supposed to.
customary to bring a tribute check.
Now that I know never to follow AmCare, they're big checks. All right, well, so we'll be in touch with the staff and the planning commission and maybe back before you, but we may not need to because it could be so straightforward.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the equalization study results. This is essentially just information only. There's not much we can do with this until we have a lot more information with our grand lists and all that fun stuff. So probably threw this on the agenda a little too quickly, but
Yeah, I forgot I know they changed it last year. What kicks you out? We're not,
reappraisal
does that kick an
I-
automatic appraisal of this report?
right now.
Last year it did.
We're super close.
Oh, yeah. No,
Three-quarters of a point.
yeah, with this year, it looks like this year, well, it'll be Kickstarter.
We're at 6.17.
And I think the way that the state's talking and Bill, this is strange because I actually went to Bill's like, what is this? Like, can you explain this to me? He'd already gone to Anna and asked her what it, so this is all too early for any of this. So,
There's no way that's right. The city would be at like 44%.
yeah,
Like if you look
Yeah.
at what we were, just in comparison from one year to the other, they're not
Yeah.
finished to reappraise.
no. I mean, let's say we did get Kickstarter this year, it won't start until
Yeah,
the
Well,
following year.
the COD thing over 20% necessitates a reappraisal, and we're at 19.26.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
a
'cause
vet man, but if I was, I'd
I
say,
think the previous measure was the CLA, if it was below 80.
yeah, we were 79.8 or something.
And yeah, last year we went to whatever under it, but then they changed the rule to, I think, the
We had the,
yeah,
we
the
appealed it and then got
COD.
under. Yeah, the last.
Well, we've talked in the past too about, I mean, I don't know, does it make sense to, I think Jonathan's brought it up, right, of trying to, search for a contractor to come up and do it while we maybe have some time on our side instead of waiting until,
We did talk about that.
because we have the money aside, so.
Yeah, we do. But I'm pretty sure, and again, I'll ask Bill on this one. I'm pretty sure the state will be maybe even handling that in the future. I think for all of them. for all
Like
of them.
paying for it?
Or no, at least like there's gonna be a system for it. Yeah, they've already paid for it. That's the money that we have set aside.
No, but okay, I think you said the
Yeah.
state was gonna pay for
No, well,
it.
technically,
Crazy what
they
we
have.
Yeah,
I
okay.
believe that's what. Yeah, that money we have set aside came from the state originally. That's what I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and there might
No,
be,
they'll get it correct.
Hmm?
They'll get it correct.
yeah.
Hmm.
So,
So you don't think there's merit in looking ahead before we're required?
well, that's what, so last time we talked about this, which I don't remember how long ago it was. I did talk to Bill about it, brought that up, and that's what he told me. He's like, well, there's a chance that actually the state's like, that we don't have to do it, like go out for it, that the state's gonna have maybe they already do have like
Just an
a
algorithm,
queue, yeah.
just an
somebody-
algorithm on every span.
I don't,
Right? I mean,
or at
essentially.
least maybe contractors of people that can do this already. I don't
okay.
know. I'll get Bill on that to get the full explanation.
Hmm.
Yeah. If you want, I'll just kick over to do the other informational thing. We can talk about the zoning form. So you don't bounce around. The other one, certificate, good segue to solar, actually. Is the certificate of public good filing for the Dunsmore Road solar.
Hmm.
So I believe it's their 45-day kickstart for their.
So they're gonna start it this time?
I think is the 45-day period for any appeal and waiting, so I think it kickstarts today.
Is that on the north end of Dunsmore, just behind Dave's place?
Across the road, you know where Nate Ando lives?
Yeah.
Down over the hill, across the brook, way out in that field.
Oh,
Way out.
oh. I was trying to look at the map, but I couldn't blow it up.
No, it's, we used to call it the long piece. There's a 30-acre meadow there, right next to what Bassett's land. And back of the houses they put in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
But now it's way away from the road. Should be easy to see though, because it's down in the,
Yeah.
whatever. That's what people want.
That's right next to Claude's back.
Yes, it is right next door to Quan's farm. Yep. I believe, yes.
That's all I got for that one. And then the zoning complaint form, Jonathan asked to put that on there for discussion. So we currently have that, or as you guys are well aware now at this point, an anonymous zoning complaint form. And he asked me to put it on the agenda to discuss.
So we have two forms. We have one online complaint form, which is in on that online permits and something directory on the town's website. And we also have another one under policies and forms or something like that. That's another fillable form where you put your name and stuff. So I want to bring this to the board, I think we either get rid of one. Either we keep the anonymous one, or I don't think we should have two different forms for doing the same function.
No, yeah, that's easy enough. We can delete the non-anonymous one, or
I think I've asked you before, Sean, about how many anonymous complaints are there? Is it unruly? I mean, if it's not, I would be certainly in favor of keeping it as an option.
Since I've been here, there've been, so it's over a year and 7 months.
Is this where you're talking about under forums under?
Yeah, there's,
So there's two forms. One's got a name on it, one doesn't. That what we're.
I guess so, yeah.
So one has a form, so Swanton
Yeah.
has an form on their website, which pretty much mirrors our complaint form that's not anonymous. And they
cheap-
have that. And then also Milton has the same thing. It's called Request for Action Investigation Report. Where you fill out everything and then the town. Actually, I kind of like Milton's because it has, you know, what did the ZA do and blah, 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 blah. That one's kind of nice too.
Did Jen put the emails in her packets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make
Yeah, and I like the, one idea kind of pulled from that was almost like priority given to ones that are signed with a name versus if it's anonymous, then, and we've got other ones to deal with, we're not gonna deal with that one
In our case,
first.
that there's no difference. Truth be told, there's no priority. We don't get a ton of them, period. So it's not like we have one and then the other. Speaking generally, these anonymous complaints are put in for protection. Just plain and simple. People can call people and it can escalate into borderline retaliation. So that's, my opinion. If we had 44 of these since I've been here, and it was causing a problem, I would just have no problem. I'd be like, Jesus, no, we can't handle all this. We've got a smaller staff.
Well, that's what I mean as a safeguard for that, having it in where if all of a sudden there is an influx of 50 of them.
Yeah.
And 45 of them are anonymous,
Yeah.
say, or the other way around, 45 are signed and 5 are anonymous. The 5 anonymous ones, we get to them when we get to them.
Yeah. I think we're a long way away.
Well,
from that.
I read the output like off of list server or something in my packet about different towns.
Yeah, that's from Megan, I think, yeah.
Okay, well, people were providing feedback from other towns and the people are. I don't think the approach. One person said that. It doesn't matter where it comes from. The issue is there a violation?
Mhm.
Yes.
Doesn't matter about. Who or what, is there a violation there that we need to look into? And so whether it's. I'm not anonymous or not anonymous is. Not the point. The point is there a violation?
Yeah.
And I think that's. That's how. The town should approach it.
Yeah, and I went out on one of them, I think with Megan last year, and we just drove by. It was one where you could just see it, would have been able to see it from the yard. And we drove by, it took us 5 minutes and that was it. And that was filed away, so.
So I don't understand how this form, I was obviously on the select board and I got put on there.
Yeah.
Without approval from the board, whether or not it's needed. So now we have 2 forms. We also have a junk ordinance that you have to sign or nobody goes and looks at it.
Yeah, I can't.
Like, so either we're gonna make everything anonymous or we're gonna make everything where you gotta write your name.
I have no problem.
And plus it keeps everybody honest. It keeps everything open and transparent. I'm not buying the whole retaliation. I really don't buy it. Like, there's so many things you can retaliate on somebody for. I just don't buy it. Every town has a form where you gotta fill it right out, just about, or at least 2 neighboring ones. That I just spent 5 minutes to school. Like, it's not like everybody, I don't know who came up with this anonymous form.
But why would you need to know?
Why would you not?
Why would you need to know?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, it'd be
That's-
nice to know
yeah.
who made the complaint. Maybe they're just harassing somebody. Maybe they just keep harassing somebody for no reason.
But again, if there's no violation, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Well, then you're just wasting time. Like, and then at what point did you become an issue? I don't know. I just, whatever.
in my opinion,
So-
because
so
an issue
either-
is 50
so-
people, yeah.
Well, and then it's gonna come out in discovery, just like the lawyer said. Like, if it ever goes to court because somebody's been treated poorly, like, it'll come out in discovery. Like, the
Yeah.
CA is gonna have to say, like, who it came from,
Yeah,
the way I read it.
So at that point.
The town doesn't protect people that put in anonymous complaints. We're not a protection agency.
I mean, if somebody calls 3 people in the place, like in a locality to call, searching for who might have made a complaint. Like, I don't know how you would characterize that.
I'm not getting into the details.
Just speaking
whatever-
generally.
Whatever. No, you're
Yeah.
not speaking generally.
Well,
You know where.
I'm not saying any names. Yeah,
I'm just saying, I'm not going down that road. Either we're gonna
Yeah.
make everything anonymous or we'll have everything, because we have 2 contradicting forms. We have one anonymous and one filled.
we can take out the non-anonymous one.
Yeah.
Easy.
I see both sides. I see in the ag world, I see the frustration of not knowing who your accuser is. And people having to deal with people calling and filing basically false complaints because they don't understand what they're seeing. And then the farmer having to have to stop what they're doing. The state people come in, they want to go all over everywhere. They never find anything because there's no violation. But you never know who's doing that, and it's super aggravating. I see that, I do get that.
I've been there.
Yeah, and. I thought it was a law that you could be anonymous. I didn't know that you could do it any other way. Or
I
the,
didn't know you could do it anonymously. I thought you had to come and sign your name. Before knowing this, like I thought you had to sign your name, but I think the anonymous thing, it allows for the freedom of speech without the fear of retaliation. But I understand also what you're saying, that it could be used incorrectly. But I still think you could use it.
it gets used as a harassment.
Yeah.
For sure. That in my work.
Yeah, I think if it became something like that, I think at my point, then I would be like, hey, we have to like address this in some way. But, 4 complaints in 19 months. I don't think we can call that harassment yet.
No, I wouldn't call that.
No.
So what are we gonna do?
Don't
Just-
make a motion, either keep the fillable form or keep the non-complaint form. We're not having to. I don't feel
But-
good for
So
2.
wait, I'd love to see it, see the forms.
Yeah, I don't know, where is it on?
The biggest difference is just the anonymous, non-anonymous. Yeah.
So I go to forms, I don't see anything with complaint, except health complaint. When I type in complaint, it only brings up health complaint.
So it's easy because we just don't figure that down one way or the other, right?
Nothing for violation. That's why I just can't. I tried to see him last time, I'm trying now. Get decision.
So, but I would go for the non-anonymous.
Can you find them on there, Sean, at all on the
What's that?
website? Either of the 2 complaint forms that we're referencing?
While he's doing that, what do you think would be the unintended consequences of either option?
Because I know we've had problems with the junk ordinance, and that's why they made it. So you gotta sign your name.
Yeah, I see the one where you sign your name.
Do we have precedent?
I don't know, I did complaint and it says zoning. No, it's in the town search bar at the top. I just typed complaint. And it says zoning compliant affidavit.
Yeah, that's the fillable.
Affidavit got signed.
Yeah. But I don't know where the anonymous one is.
The anonymous one is, yeah, so easy to find.
All right, so there's not much here other than property address.
So if you go,
what the
when you come to the
complaint
homepage, you go to the left. Report an issue,
Mm-hmm.
and then scroll down.
You make, I'll second.
And then it says click here, and then you scroll down to the bottom. You'll find. No. All the way down.
A code complaint.
Yeah, cool.
It still has an e-signature.
Yeah, but. You don't even have to see, you could put X, Y, Z in there.
You can submit it. Like even the last person. Now this one, they signed their name. So that's where it's a little bit more confusion comes from.
I made a motion, we go with the non-anonymous one.
I'll second it.
Can you say that again, Jack, so I hear it clearly?
Making a motion to go with one form, non-anonymous, reassigning.
And I second that motion.
So eliminating the anonymous option.
Yeah. What about that?
Okay, motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
I say no.
I say no.
Okay, I'm gonna vote aye to break the tie.
Okay, new form, or no form,
Same form, yeah.
that takes care of that.
All right, what do we got next?
Other business,
No, we have a few more things.
Oh.
No, the town manager report.
Oh.
Yeah. It's all under that same thing. Just kind of quickly, with ARPA. We.
Guess they know how to find them now. One's gonna disappear though.
Good, you still don't know.
Crazy that took me that long to find it though. I mean, it's not, I think it'd be under forms.
Yeah, that's why this is. I'm mostly never mind. ARPA, we spent or obligated all of it. So
Good.
yeah, I wasn't.
Yep.
So roughly speaking, we spent around 31,000 on office equipment, 248 on property, a new generator for the DPW, a ton of equipment for DPW. Between the two of those, about 400,000. The RAV4 for the town for inspections and other things for 30. We digitized all of our records, both our land records and soon to be our assessing and zoning records. That was for about a total of 311,000. Just about 27,000 on consulting, 42,000 on the Bay Park upgrades and other things for the park. About 100,000 for our IT service contract and our HR software, and for 3 years each. And about 330,000 between economic development efforts and marketing properties in the park, which those will have something to show. Hopefully by the summer, but they're already working with us on that, so they'll be up here shooting in the spring. So, and then unearned revenue at the end of all of it was we had 173,000 about that we could transfer over to general fund as unearned lost revenue for ARPA guidelines. So 1.925 million.
You say that last part again. So we still have $170,000 that we could transfer to the general fund if we wanted to?
We did.
We did.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we originally designated the ARPA, there's a couple ways you could, but we chose basically lost revenue, just to put it simply.
Okay,
So
I
the
thought I
effort-
just heard we still had an option to do that, like that, yes.
Yeah, no,
Let's do it.
yeah, we did
Okay.
that. We did that, so $0 go back to Uncle Sam on that one. And Tanglewoods project, they're finally pausing. I think they did probably 6 weeks more work than they thought they were gonna get done before winter.
Mhm.
Winter came, they'll be wrapping up, I think, tomorrow until spring. That should be done around June. We put out an RFQ for tree removal and trimming services, just so we have somebody on call. So we're not just gonna pick one. Only one company has responded so far, but the hope is to have at least a couple of them on site, or excuse me, on hand available if we need some emergency.
Who responded?
So
teachers.
Is that what they said?
That's okay.
Okay. And then lastly,
Out of Berlin.
oh, really?
So what is that? What do you have them on retainer or in case you need them or what?
Yeah,
You got a bunch of data.
yeah.
So we have that, it's already in need. We're not
Yeah.
waiting.
I went to the-
Yeah, okay, that's what you were talking
Well, I
about.
thought that's what
Okay.
we bought that bucket truck for.
You can't go up so high. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying
yeah.
No.
the bucket truck was to put up the flags for the Fourth.
Oh,
That was not why we bought the.
And let the city-
now we'll use their street sweep.
I'm sure that, you know, inspected every year.
Sorry about that. I was just.
It's fine. Yeah, it's a valid question. And lastly, just thanks to Stan Dukas for building those Vermont butternut wood picture frames and the flag frame and also the donation of the flag. Just thanking our US veterans and St. Albans residents. So
Pretty cool.
Looks nice.
it does. He's a craftsman. That's my report.
Perfect. Anybody have any other business? Hearing none. We'll move the schedule. The next select board meeting will be Wednesday, Tuesday, January 21st at, we'll do 6:30 regular meeting. And then the next meeting will be Monday, February 3rd at 6:30.
Oh, you mentioned will be closed this Thursday.
Town hall will be
8:30,
closed this
3:30.
this Thursday from 8:30 to 3:30.
Staff.
Staff training.
Does that mean us?
Yeah, yeah.
You're.
There was an
you're
email
invited.
for it. Yeah, so that's the full day one, and then we've got the 16th is the 2-hour VLCT roles responsibilities,
You
right?
got one?
Yes.
And I don't know if we wanted to plan for President's Day week as well, just because the 17th is President's Day of February. So I didn't know if you wanted to have it on Tuesday or Wednesday of that week as well. I know, right?
So-
I planned, so
What day is Wednesday?
the 19th is Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Because the 17th is President's Day.
Same with me, just, she's looking at another meeting down.
I was just because there was a holiday, so thought we could just tackle it.
Same with me again, on Wednesday I'll be in
Select
Cards Arena. So you're gonna do, if people are cool with Tuesday again.
What, the February or something?
Yeah, if 17th is President's Day, we
Yeah.
can go to the 18th.
And the 18th, I already made plans. That's how far out I made plans.
So yeah, move it to whatever.
I'm good.
Just, we'll capture that at the next meeting. Just
Okay.
put it on the Wednesday.
All right.
Next. Good.
Think about it.
Okay, having said that, would somebody make a motion to go into executive session to discuss a contractual matter where premature general public knowledge of the subject matter will place
Recording stopped.
at a substantial disadvantage? Further move to enter into executive session to discuss a contractual matter under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of Vermont statutes and to invite the town manager and director of operations.
Aye.
Second, third.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.